left off where you'd got a new therapist.
Yeah.
And that person saw right through what was
Yes.
going on. And you started talking to them separately too.
Yeah.
That's kind of
so.
And he was being mean, like started to be mean.
I mean, he was just kind of, so he had started like portraying his old behaviors that were the root of most things. He was gaslighting me again. He liked to really point out that everything was fine until my affair, but it would also gaslight me when I would say things about him hitting me, and how that was still something that I thought about and dealt with a lot. So like all of those behaviors were presenting themselves again. And there was a particular day while I was at school that I was covering for a lot of teachers. We just had a lot of people absent. Everybody was getting the flu. So I really had no time to look at my phone. And he was someone who, when he was communicating, I should be communicating back. Now, that didn't go both ways. So if I was reaching out to him and he didn't get back to me, that was because he was busy at work, and I should be understanding of that. But, I didn't look at my phone at all until lunch. And when I did look at it, I had paragraph long text messages of how he knew I was ignoring him and that I better text him back, blah, 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 blah. He knows that I'm giving him the silent treatment and he doesn't understand why I'm being this way. And this was after I had the suspicions that, the rehabilitation he was in was fake. So I also had an email from American Express that said a purchase over $5,000 was made, and I looked it up, and it was clearly an attorney. So I started having a panic attack. I looked up the name, saw that it was a law firm in Atlanta, and that was really all I needed. That was the moment. Like once I saw that he had taken these steps where he would threaten to leave me before, or to divorce me, and who was going to love me. But that was the first time that I was like, wow, okay, well, this is it. He's gotten a lawyer, like this is happening. And all at once, I tell people a lot that this was something simple that happened, like seeing that email, and it doesn't sound as devastating as like the fact that I'm figuring out that he isn't really in rehab, or the suicidal gesture. Like none of it's as big. It was just that email. But all at once, it was like I'd been in a dark room for years alone. It was just that email telling me that he had spent this money. And it was like I'd been sitting in a dark room by myself for years and years and years. And all of a sudden, the door opened and someone turned on the light. And it was like all at once, I could see everything for what it was. And I went to my assistant principal, told her everything that was going on. She was also recovering from a divorce from a narcissist. So, in retrospect, I really believe that was the place I needed to be. I don't think I would have had the real epiphany if I had not been there by myself in Atlanta to really see everyone and everything for what it was. And she gave me her attorney's contact information, contacted him, let him know what was going on. I talked to him that afternoon, paid a retainer to him, and filed for divorce. That was a Friday. We filed for divorce on Monday. And, it was a really important decision to make. It was really important in the fact that I was the plaintiff and not the defendant, because that was going to set the tone, for the divorce moving forward. So of all the things that happened, like the physical and emotional abuse, the manipulation over the years, the isolation, the gaslighting, the suicidal gesture, me leaving the house in the middle of the night, him telling me he's in rehab for Adderall addiction and alcoholism, the thing that gave me the power was that email that he had obtained a lawyer. And it was like the last piece of the puzzle, I guess, that I needed for everything to switch and for me to see him for who he was.
Yeah. Dang, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, you stuck by him through so much stuff, and then he decides to do this behind your back. It's like, let me just like hurt you even more by being like, hey, I don't want to be with you. When you're like, we could have just ended this realizing we're not right for each other a long time ago.
And he was totally going to make it like, oh, well, she had an emotional affair, so that's why I got like, not to even talk about the addictions that he had, the addiction at the very beginning that he had, that you said over and over and over again, like, please stop, like, this is hurting me. And he just, he needed you to have that emotional affair for him to have an excuse, a reason.
Yeah. We've never been like on the same playing field. And then finally I did something bad. Like I'd done something.
That gave him the power to like be more of that narcissistic tone of like, well, if you hadn't done this, then I wouldn't be acting like that. Just like how he was body shaming you. Well, if you looked a certain way, then I wouldn't be looking at this. Like, that gave him more of his power.
Do you think, looking back and just hearing some of I know we haven't like finished the rest of your story, but do you think that the reason why his family was so accepting and loving and kind of like buying your love was maybe because like they knew who he really was, and maybe they just like wanted him, maybe if he found someone to settle down with, it would maybe like calm his narcissistic tendencies?
Definitely enablers. I think they were definitely part of the manipulation of trying to sell him to me. Of what a great person he was. And he has a brother who's always like been the black sheep, who I can see now was the one who knew what was going on, like could see the bullshit and kind of separated himself. He has such like strong boundaries with his family that he's able to have a relationship with them. But like, I can see now that he knew what was going on. I think his parents felt guilty about what happened to him as a child. And so they were willing to do, I think that they thought he could be a certain type of person, and they also won't admit, that he's a narcissist. And they've enabled him for so long, and they've been part of his supply. Like, he gets narcissistic supply from them. And they're such a picture perfect family. I mean, it was all about the protection, the manipulation. I don't think, I could be wrong, but even now, like there's been I've reached out to his dad within the last couple months to help me get a document from TRICARE that I needed to get Caroline on my insurance. And even then he used it in a way to try and manipulate me into like their way of thinking. And, since then that happened. I talked to my therapist about it. I know I can never reach out to his parents about anything. They're always going to use it to their advantage. Yeah. So
it's like addicts and their parents enabling them. Like they see there's a problem, but they're so worried about what might happen if they don't, that they just continue.
So how did this end? And then like, how is co-parenting going?
So our divorce was very long. It was very, very long. I filed for divorce in October of 2023, and our divorce was finalized on March 6th of this year.
Oh my God.
So, yeah. In part because we had to have something that I didn't even know what it was. Pretty quickly, our attorneys figured out, my attorney and his attorney figured out that we are on complete opposite sides of the spectrum with what we think is going to happen and how we think this divorce is going to proceed. He wanted 50-50 custody, unsupervised parenting time. And from the very beginning, my attorney told me, from this point forward, you do not leave your child alone with him. if you do, that narrative is going to be very difficult to change. And, you know, with the lights coming on and me seeing all of it for what it was, I understood that like his mental illness, his behavior disorder was a danger to her, that being alone with her was not okay. So he went several months without seeing her. So our attorneys recommended that we have something called a guardian ad litem, which is a third party attorney who's basically the child's representative. Then we would equally pay her. She would do an investigation. And early on, she ordered a psychological evaluation for him because of the suicidal ideation and the suicidal gesture and these insane messages that I started getting from him. You know, condemning me, telling me God was going to judge me. Everything got very religious very fast. And this is kind of a common thing with people who are narcissists. They cling to the holier than thou persona. So in combination with the gesture and all of these messages that I was receiving, they did file a court-ordered psych eval, which took a long time to get done. There's only a handful of psychologists and psychiatrists in the Atlanta metro area who are willing to do litigation, like who are willing to testify on their findings. She interviewed me. We had like a 3-hour conversation, the psychologist, and then she did her psych eval with him, which took a lot of time. So between the time of fall 2023 and spring of 2024, the guardian ad litem went and did home visits with both of us, went and visited her school, talked to her therapist, talked to our therapists, interviewed us both. But she could not make a recommendation to us for custody until the psych eval was done. So in the meantime, we would have to go to these little like update court dates over Zoom. So like the amount of money we were spending is astronomical. And I'm very lucky and grateful that I had a family member who does not have children, who was able to fund this journey that I went on. So we were just spending all this money. We'd finally come up with like a temporary arrangement where he could see her if his parents or his brother was there. And there were times that he did not get to see her because he wouldn't take or he couldn't pass a drug test because the Adderall would show up. And the guardian ad litem knew about the Adderall addiction, and he had an extremely high level, but he had manipulated over time, and I didn't know this until the end, his doctor to give him a 90 milligram a prescription of Adderall, which for all of our ADD friends will know that that's really high. It's very high.
Prescription.
Normal would be like anywhere from 20 to 60. 60's on the high end.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was prescribed 90. So he would take time release and immediate release throughout the day, but he was abusing that. And by the end of his prescription would be out of Adderall for a week. And when you stop taking your Adderall out of nowhere, you know, you have these horrific mood swings. So like even now I know when he's unmedicated because he'll be able to keep everything kind of undercover and then the mask comes off when he's unmedicated. Like his impulsivity is just out of control when he's not medicated. I mean, it's bad when he is medicated, but when he's not, it's worse. So there were these visits that he'd missed. And when the recommendation finally came down from the guardian, the psych eval was done. He was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. So he was not diagnosed by that psychologist with narcissism. Borderline is different, but it's very similar to narcissism. And our other two counselors that we had both seen separately and together, both suspected that he suffered from both. So I'm very lucky in that I got the external validation from a professional that he has a personality disorder that so many women will never get, you know, and will have to to be okay with the internal validation that they know their partner is a narcissist, has borderline, is, for lack of a better word, crazy.
Right.
But I got that. And so when that recommendation came down, we found out the day we had one of those like Zoom court updates. And the recommendation was that he be in intensive therapy for at least a year. That he used something called SoberLink, which is like a breathalyzer that attaches to your phone, and it like has facial recognition, so you cannot cheat it.
Wow.
So whenever he would have her, he would have to use this SoberLink 3 or 4 times a day. I can't exactly remember the times. And that he would only have every other weekend. It was a pretty standard custody arrangement for someone who doesn't live together. Because I skipped over the part where, oh gosh, we're going to have to go back to that in a minute. I won't even talk about it for right now. It was pretty standard. I lived in Americas at this point. He was still in Fort Campbell, but was going to be moving to Atlanta. He'd get every other weekend, 2 weeks, twice in the summer. And then the stipulations from the guardian were, SoberLink for at least 1 year and the intensive therapy. Well, he completely denied that any of this was a problem, right? Like he didn't need to go to therapy. He didn't have a problem. He didn't need to use SoberLink. He wasn't drinking alcohol, and he would never drink to get drunk with her. And that night, I got a call from his roommate that he was in the emergency room having an allergic reaction. I still don't know what all that's about. I think maybe he took something that he knew he would react to, so that he would. I mean, I just got a message from him out of nowhere that he was in the ICU. I think it all has to do with the fact that diagnosis came down and was made public to his attorneys and mine, and everyone involved with that. Yeah, he freaked out.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what that game was, because like it didn't affect me.
I guess at that point you're just like, I'm already checked out. Like,
right. And I told his roommate that. His roommate was like, well, he wasn't breathing. And I was just like, I don't even believe that it's real.
That's part of the manipulation, I think. Like when he pulled the gun out, that was part of the manipulation of being like, well, I can tell you're leaving me, so this is my last ditch effort to get you back. Maybe that was part of that. Even though you guys were so far into the divorce, he was like, well, this is my last ditch effort to like
see if
cause an emotion.
Yeah. And see if
this whole time, I'm in therapy, and my therapist is helping me understand that I have to use this method called gray rocking with him, where I just give him as little emotion as possible, like yes, no, stating facts only. And it's very hard. It's very, very hard, because of course this person has been with me for 10 years and he knows all the buttons to push, and he knows personal information about me and about my life that he could use against me and weaponize against me. But so the divorce continues. A judge tells us we try to settle. You have to go to mediation in the state of Georgia. So we go to mediation in June of 2024. He wants 50-50 custody, even though he lives in Atlanta at this point, and I live in Americus, which is 3 hours away. He wants no SoberLink. He doesn't want to have to go to therapy. He doesn't want it in anywhere in the court documents that he has a diagnosis. He doesn't want to give me any retirement. He wants to give me the bare minimum of child support. And up until this point, we had negotiated that he would give me the amount of BAH that he was making at Fort Campbell. So I was receiving a good deal more than child support once our attorneys had come to an agreement about that. But he didn't want to pay for medical. He didn't want to give at all. And at mediation, he found out that I'd already gotten Caroline into counseling without consulting with him. And so that just derailed any hope that we were going to come to an agreement at mediation. And we were at mediation from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. Nothing got solved. But we completed mediation, which is the step you have to take, even in a situation like this, and something that like family courts do not like recognize and don't like officially do anything about, which is like this narcissistic coercive control that spouses will inflict on the other, because women can be narcissists too. But so there's no real grounds of like immediate need for us to divorce. Like there's no danger. I mean, there were nights in my apartment after I filed for divorce that I was afraid he was going to come and try and break in because his name was on the lease. But my attorneys would tell me he could show up at the door right now and there's literally nothing that we can do. There's nothing that would, the police aren't going to come. And if they do, they're just going to ask for him to go sleep somewhere else. Because like that kind of, it's just not really well understood in a legal sense or recognized as like a form of danger, because he never told me he would hurt me over a text and he never threatened to hurt Caroline. So unless he did one of those two things, threatened to hurt me physically or threatened to hurt her physically, there's nothing that anyone could do. So our divorce just kept dragging on. And a judge told us at one point, look, like, we know you want a final hearing. You're not getting that until 2025. And that's just because Fulton County in Atlanta, dealing with so much, they're also backed up still from COVID at this point, like trying to catch up with cases that have been in limbo since then. I'm not the only person who was trying to get divorced. And so our official court date wasn't set until March of 2025, which gave him lots and lots of time to continue to use me for narcissistic supply. And I think that's why the divorce was dragged out for so long and he wouldn't agree to like very simple things. Like, I mean, it's unreasonable to think you're going to get 50-50 custody when we don't live in the same town. Like, it's just not. What was she going to go to two different schools? It didn't want to give me half of the retirement that he didn't start gaining until we were married. Like, he didn't start his retirement fund until we were married and didn't think it was important that I get any of that money. Even though I didn't work for 8 of the 9 years that we were married. So like it would go back and forth, little fighting over that of us trying to settle outside of court, because even if the goal is to settle outside of court, as bad as I wanted to go very badly. But it's like an additional, it would have been, our attorneys told us, or my attorney told me, it would have been at least $50,000 more to go to court on top of everything that we had paid. So, the goal still was to settle. And I think he relished in that. Like, I think that it was the last way for him to get that supply from me. So he wanted it to go as long as possible.
Yeah.
And we didn't settle until like 5 days before our court date. Just unnecessary stuff. Like not wanting to pay 50% of her tuition, or not wanting to pay, the discrepancy in our salaries for like uncovered medical expenses. And it is in the settlement now that he pays 70% of uncovered, which is rarely going to be a lot of money. But like it was fighting about that kind of stuff. And I mean, he's still trying to get the supply from me. But I'm able to handle it a lot better now. But we officially signed, our divorce was over on March 6th.
Okay.
But,
so it's like so new still.
So that's crazy. So when I started this podcast and you reached out to me about how you wanted to share your story, like you had just ended ended it. Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's just a strange predicament. So like co-parenting, at the same time you're trying to raise a child together, you're also trying to heal from your abuser, but you're attached to them. And people say until they're 18. It's not until they're 18. It's until they're, it's forever. Yeah, it's forever. Mm-hmm. It's been very, very difficult to navigate. He's definitely working on her. Right. The manipulation really has started with her, and I can see that in like just her behaviors when she comes home, or she has anxiety, and I will say that is like a family problem. Everybody in my family has anxiety. So like, I'm not surprised that she has anxiety, but she's 6 now and she knows that she can't talk about certain things in front of me because it might get daddy in trouble. He didn't take her to her recital in the spring. Told me he would take her if she wanted to go. And of course, that was just a manipulative tactic to convince her that she didn't want to go to her recital.
It's like, well, you don't want to go, do you? You don't want to do that.
Right. Exactly. Like, wouldn't you rather do this? And he's definitely Disneyland dad. Like, they go and do the fun things all the time in Atlanta when she goes up there. And he has a girlfriend who lives with him, and she seems like a pretty normal person. So, like, I feel it's such a weird thing to say, but I'm happy that he has someone who lives with him, because it makes me feel a little safer to know that, or makes me feel better that Caroline is safe to know that, like, there's a person in that home with them that he has to perform for. So like, he can't truly be himself in front of Caroline because he's still performing for his girlfriend.
The new girl.
Yeah.
Right. And
but
so,
are you a little worried for her though? Because you're like, you have no idea what you're dealing
100%.
with. Yeah.
I really struggle with that a lot. And I've talked to my therapist about it a lot, and it's not my place to say anything to her. Like, there's the woman in me who's like the mother in me, the former wife of this man, who like wants to tell her to run for the hills and that she has no idea like what her life could turn into. There's that part of me that I really struggle with. But then there's the bigger part of me who is Caroline's mom, who knows my investment is in her and in my own healing. And at this point, and because I was in a relationship with him, even if I told her, he's already manipulated her into believing everything he said.
Yeah.
And okay, so I'll talk on the girl for a minute. She's an actress living in Atlanta.
He has a type.
He's a type.
And like, I think he targeted her to hurt me because she's a working actress, like in film, and she's a stunt double. So like, she's like, this is her career.
Yeah.
And I think that he specifically targeted her to get at me. Like, look, this girl that I'm with now is actually doing the thing that you wanted to do. When I'm just like, well, God bless her. I hope she sticks with it and doesn't
stop.
That is so insane, because it's like no, and no offense to the acting community, but I would feel like that would make more sense if you maybe lived in like LA or something like that. But for like where you guys live, to find someone that does or is doing what you wanted to do, yeah, it definitely feels targeted a little bit.
Calculated. Yeah. And so like, I feel like, I'll get, it's just a really weird situation to be in. I would love to talk to her and tell her, but my therapist has told me to, there's just, it wouldn't matter.
It's like, it's done at this point. You and him are done.
There's nothing you can say to her that she's going to believe.
Yeah,
He's already
you're the crazy ex-wife.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're the crazy ex-wife that cheated on him.
Yeah.
Right.
Emotionally.
Hurt him, and that he still tried to stay with me. And then he wanted to commit suicide. And
yeah. How was his relationship with that guy? Was he still friends with him after all of that? Or
what guy?
The guy that you had an emotional affair with.
Excuse me. It took me some time to reach back out to him, because I like immediately cut off all communication with him. And he did send me a message after it all initially happened, because my ex-husband called him and confronted him about it. And he sent me a message and was like, if you were having feelings for me, I wish you would have just told me. I could have helped you navigate it. Like, I'm your friend. Like, I don't. And of course I was like, I didn't even answer, I don't think, or I did. And then I ended up cutting off all communication with him at the request of my ex-husband. But it took me a while after I filed for divorce to reach back out to him and apologize for just him having to get involved in that way.
Yeah.
I don't know if they speak now.
Yeah. What would your advice be to someone that's like in your situation, that hasn't gotten out?
Life after is so much better. As hard as it would be to leave, and I know because I did it, no matter how bad you think things will be alone, life, you have a chance to start over, and life can be so beautiful, and you don't even know what's waiting on the other side.
Yeah.
And then logistically, my advice would be to have a plan before you not before you make an exit, but just have a plan, have somewhere to go, because and tell your friends, never keep secrets from the people who matter to you. Like, be transparent. Even if you've kept secrets up until this point, find the person you trust, even if it's someone you haven't talked to in a long time, because those people are there. They're waiting. And my sister, my mom, they all had suspicions, but they never wanted to infiltrate in a way that would like cut me off from them from good. People know what's going on around you, and like, your friends, and then they start telling you, well, we never liked him. We always thought that there was something going on. So like, the people aren't going to, there are people in your life who are going to be there for you. And find those people and hold them close, because that person's going to do everything possible to try and wiggle their way back into your life to get the control back. So once you've found an out, take it, surround yourself with people who love you, and know that like at the end of it, life is beautiful and that life is better. And like, even when you're living a life that you didn't imagine having, it's better than you can ever hope for.
I think our audience would like to know, where is Marie now? What are you doing? How are you thriving? What's going on with you now?
So I love living alone. I love it just being me and my daughter. We live in a house that was built in the 20s and in this beautiful historic neighborhood, and I have wonderful friends in our neighborhood. My whole family lives here. My daughter just made the competition dance team. She's very excited.
Love that.
Natural performer, just like me.
Yeah.
So she has these great friends. I am teaching drama and I just found out I'll get to teach only high school next year. So I'm very excited about that. I don't have to teach any elementary aged kids, which everybody has their gifts, and little kids aren't for me when it comes to education. But this past year at school, my one act team won their region and we went to state, and I've just had a really successful year career wise. I've reconnected with a lot of my friends who I had growing up here. I am dating a guy that is in law school who is the brother of my sister's best friend, who I had no idea existed.
Okay.
He's 5.5 years younger than me.
Ooh,
So
okay.
I got cougar status. This is where I'm talking about like, life is so much better than I could have imagined. He is like the epitome of the guy everyone tells you like you're waiting for. Like, all the like, don't settle because there's a man out there that will do this, this, and this. Well, that is who he is. We were at the beach this past weekend, and he took me to a concert to see Tyler Childers, who we just really bonded over, and we both love live music, and I've gone to so many concerts with him over the last several months, and I never went to a single one with my ex-husband. But he got up before I woke up one morning, went and got coffee, came back, woke me up, and said, it's 5:15, I have coffee, let's go down to the beach and watch the sunrise. And I've never, he's the most incredible, emotionally available, intelligent, just sweet man. And he's exactly who he says he is. And so like, I'm big into like, having gone through what I went through, and, I teach these high school girls. I'm in a position where I can really impress upon them like their value and the importance of waiting for real love and waiting for friendship.
I'm like so happy for you. And
I'm happy for you too. And I don't know you that well.
Yeah. I'm like really happy for you. I know that it's not like easy because no marriage is easy. And we've all kind of like had our own situations where we're, you know, I'm sure we've thought like, I don't know if I can like keep doing this anymore, but I think you do get to a point where you realize, well, this point isn't normal. This isn't normal. And you have a daughter. Mm-hmm. And I think you leaving, being independent, working, like you're showing her that like you don't really need a man. You just need to be happy. And I'm sorry that, you know, me and your dad didn't work out. And sometimes people are better just as separately than they are together. Because at the end of the day, it's not about you and him anymore. It just wasn't going to work out. But it's about being a good mom. So I think that you really showed her that you're there for her. And I think that you're a good role model. And I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now I have to share a funny story with you.
Okay.
About
I'm ready for it.
It was your wedding day. And I just found, you know, as you know, I just found out I was pregnant literally hours before your wedding. And everybody's drunk. We're all having a good time except for me. But I mean, I had a great time. I wasn't drunk. So I'm the only sober person at your party. My husband was completely shit-faced. He was, you know, hanging out with all the Ranger guys. And I remember him being really drunk and telling everybody that I was pregnant. And I was like, one, like, don't ruin like Marie's wedding day. One, like, this isn't about Marie. You know, I mean, this isn't about me. It's about Marie. So I'm like, don't be telling everybody I'm pregnant. And also, I just found out I haven't even gone to the doctors yet. I haven't actually got like confirmation from a doctor that I'm pregnant. Yeah. But anyways, at your wedding, you had 2 cakes. You had your wedding cake and then you had a Ranger cake. I'm watching my husband through a window outside and remember how your cakes were kind of like in this like little room, circle room or something? I see my husband talking to your ex-husband's mom. And the cake hasn't been cut yet. And then I see him cut the Ranger cake and eat it. And I'm yelling at him through the window. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's just like, ooh, look, there's cake. He goes, it's lemon. He said it was like lemon flavored or something. His favorite. He's all happy. So then when I see him, I go, what the hell are you doing? I go, that's the groomsman cake. And he goes, well, it said Ranger on it and I'm a Ranger. So I just thought I could just help myself. His mom said I could have a piece of the cake. And I go, that's the groomsman's cake. He has to cut it first. So Kyle cut the cake first at your wedding.
I love it. I'm glad. He deserved it. For as long as he was in Ranger school, he deserved it. That cake was his.
Yeah. So Kyle still to this day has no regrets. He says, when I found out that you weren't married to him and I told him, he goes, good. He's like, fuck that guy. He's like, I still don't regret cutting the cake at their wedding. And I'm like, okay.
That's right.
I love it.
It's like my favorite memory.
I love that.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
That was a good cake. The cakes were really good.
It's lemon.
Yeah, the cake was really good. Yeah, it was great. And I had such a wonderful time. It was a really fun wedding. It was a
fun wedding. And I can see that now. Like I'm starting to have the ability to compartmentalize like my relationship with him and then things that I experienced while I was married to him. Like I really love talking about Alaska and I can totally like separate that. And I can separate the wedding too. Like it was a really fun wedding. All my friends were there.
Yeah, that's because we were there. That's why.
Right.
It was your friend. Yeah, it's fun because we were there. Well, anyways, we're going to go ahead and just wrap it up. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Trust me, I know that your story is going to help a lot of people. I know that it's really hard to go back and revisit the past, but it's really inspiring that you were out of it. And I think that this will help a lot of women. Yeah. you know,
It was
maybe
really
yeah,
inspirational.
it was
Yeah.
really
You're a
inspiring.
very
Thank
strong
you.
person.
Gosh, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just really appreciate y'all giving me the platform to tell part of it. You know, like
Yeah.
there's so much, but thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you
Really.
so much. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
And that's a
Thank
wrap
you.
for today's episode of Oh My Gosh, What?
We hope you enjoyed listening to our crazy stories.
Also, don't forget to subscribe, like, and review us on your favorite podcast platform.
And follow us on social media for even more fun content and behind the scenes looks.
Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.